Conor McGregor told Mike Tyson his retirement plan before calling out Floyd Mayweather for UFC White House. The year is 2026 and UFC fans could be as close as they've been in the past few years to a Conor McGregor comeback. After finding out about the UFC White House card scheduled for this coming June, Conor McGregor announced that he is targeting the iconic card to make his long-awaited comeback. In an attempt to show how serious he is about returning to the sport, the Notorious then went on a few months-long social media detox. During that time, the former UFC double champion attended trauma therapy where he claims he was shown his death before getting in touch with his faith. McGregor was inspired by Mike Tyson to make comeback. Seemingly having found a new lease of life, the Notorious is now fully back in training, preparing to make the walk at the White House. And one man he was inspired by to make his return at 37 years old was Mike Tyson. The former undisputed heavyweight boxing king controversially returned to the ring in November 2024 to take on Jake Paul. And although McGregor wasn't supportive of that fight, he was inspired by Iron Mike and his mindset heading into his comeback. You know what resonates with me, Mike? When you made your comeback, you were asked, what would Cus D'Amato say? What would Cus say now that you're back, that you're finally returning? You said, he'd say what took you so long. And that made me fall to my knees, McGregor told Tyson in a recent meeting. I'm never bowing out, I'll fight until the end until we meet God, the Creator. And it was light work in that ring, it was a spar for F's sake, do 10 more of them, do 10 more of them. McGregor calls out Floyd Mayweather for MMA fight. In the midst of preparation ahead of his potential return, the Irishman seems to be getting back to his witty self. Although it is highly likely that he will finally take on Michael Chandler, he has audaciously called out Floyd Mayweather for a fight under the UFC banner, claiming that Mayweather made her a promise. Fun times, Dana White, McGregor said when reposting a video of his and Floyd's World Tour press conference. Floyd Mayweather, when you are ready for that promised MMA bout, I am here. The White House is nice in the summer, I heard. Just kidding, Mike, Chandler. Although I could fight both the same night. Floyd MMA? Easy, 10 seconds. Ever since his retirement from professional boxing, Mayweather has continued to attempt to earn staggering money by competing in exhibition bouts. Undefeated UFC title contender hits back as first loss to 1-5 journeyman is uncovered and defeat added to record. Number 4 ranked UFC welterweight Michael Morales' record just got a little bit less impressive with a loss being added to his tally. The undefeated Ecuadorian landed a spot in the top 5 with a vicious knockout win over Sean Brady at UFC 322 in Madison Square Garden back in November. It was his third straight finish in the octagon and saw him emerge as a serious contender to Islam Makhachev's newly won world title. Now, it appears that Morales has been given some humanity in the form of a defeat early in his career. And top stat website Topology have adjudged that the fight constituted a professional MMA bout, meaning his record has been updated to 20-1. Michael Morales lost early career fight to 1-5 journeyman. Tonight, the reputable record keepers over at Topology announced that they had unearthed 2 new Michael Morales fights from his early career. He had appeared on a reality TV show with a qualifier fight which he won before he was brutally knocked out in the next round. Morales had moved to 19-0 with his win over Sean Brady, but the site which is often referenced by those in the industry as a leader has now credited him as 20-1. This is not an official decision by any particular athletic commission or the UFC, and his official record is likely to stay as 19-0 on UFC documentation. Update on the Topology record for welterweight phenom Michael Morales. Topology wrote in a statement on X, while Morales had been listed up to this point as undefeated as professional, we have added 1 additional professional win and 1 additional professional loss from the start of his career. We were tipped off to and found extensive footage of an Ecuadorian league, Ultimapedia, which had at least 3 seasons of a reality-style show with fighters in a tournament. Morales competed in the second season in 2017. Morales was 17 at the time of the qualification fight and 18 at the time of his quarterfinal fight, a loss. The rules and structure of the fights meet our criteria of professional MMA. Many of the competitors were established professionals including Ricardo Centeno who beat him. The Morales loss can be viewed in this video, embedded above. He gets stuck in a triangle choke and eats several punches before the ref stops it. Morales is out cold and it was announced as a knockout, however we have classified it as a triangle choke submission. While the Ultimate Fighter reality show in the US is still classified as exhibition status, we don't grant the same exhibition status to other reality competitions around the world. TUF has only been exempted because of the US Athletic Commission designation it was given. The defeat came at the hands of Ricardo Centeno, who at the time had a record of just 1-5. It's unclear how he did in the rest of the tournament, but he ended up finishing his career in 2022 with a record of 10-10. Michael Morales hits back at Topology as fans take his side. While Topology's decision is purely that of a website's management, fans were quick to express their displeasure with the announcement. They believe that the fight being a two-rounder disqualifies it from professional MMA, as well as the fact it wasn't a legitimate bout as part of a reality TV show. Morales took to Instagram to respond, writing, "I'll punch Injustice right in the face. F you Topology." He also shared a screenshot of rival website Sheerdog, who still have him marked as 19-0. Ariel Pereira, a fighter who claims to have worked on the show, insisted the fight shouldn't even be marked as amateur due to its rule set. He wrote that elbows were banned, and that if the fight ended in a draw after 2 rounds the referee would have decided to have a third round akin to the Ultimate Fighter. "I have more of an issue with this than his dressed dancing, and that's saying a lot," one fan said in an angry message. Another added that this is the equivalent of the one classmate asking about extra homework. Islam Makhachev gets very realistic predicting Jon Jones vs Daniel Cormier trilogy in wrestling. Islam Makhachev doesn't fancy Daniel Cormier's chances in a UFC trilogy with Jon Jones, but things might be different on the mats. Cormier and Jones have one of the most bitter feuds in MMA history, with 2 of the biggest fights ever for the sport. The New Yorker won both times, including a vicious knockout in the rematch which was later overturned to a no contest due to a failed drug test. Now, the pair are coming head-to-head again almost a decade after their second clash. This time, they're only competing as coaches on a Russian reality TV show, although Cormier has floated the idea of the pair meeting in a pure wrestling match on the Real American Freestyle platform. Islam Makhachev believes Daniel Cormier can beat Jon Jones in wrestling. Islam Makhachev and Daniel Cormier are close friends, but there has always been an honesty and healthy competition between them over the years. And asked about the potential of a Jon Jones trilogy, the UFC welterweight champion reckoned it might be difficult for his old pal. However, he was more optimistic about a wrestling match, noting that Cormier's skill exclusively on the mat is unmatched at their weight. "You know, it's one of those matchups where only in wrestling could Cormier handle Jones," Makhachev admitted in a brutally honest interview with MMA Arena. "Because Jon Jones is good at wrestling, but wrestling is Cormier's element. He's an Olympic-level guy. That is a very high level." Nate Diaz's legacy questioned by MMA legend who argues fan favorite was never good. Nate Diaz is undeniably one of the most popular fighters in UFC history, but was he ever actually good enough to back up his swagger? That's the question Ben Askren raised as he returned to his Funky and the Champ show with Daniel Cormier for the first time since his battle with illness that required a double lung transplant. The legendary wrestler and former Bellator champion wasn't keen on remembering Diaz as a good fighter. Both Cormier and Askren have held multiple world titles in MMA, albeit with the latter struggling during his brief UFC run at the end of his career. Meanwhile, after winning the Ultimate Fighter, Diaz challenged for the title once at lightweight but never reached those heights athletically. Ben Askren questions Nate Diaz as a good MMA fighter. While some may question Ben Askren's all-round ability and draw on the fact that he was 1-2 in the UFC, there is no denying that at one point he was one of the most dominant fighters in MMA. He arrived in the octagon as one FC and Bellator champion and held an 18-0 record. Meanwhile, he noted during last night's episode of Funky and the Champ that Nate Diaz, despite his massive popularity, was never an elite fighter. In fact, he claimed that Stockton Brawler was only ever average, as evidenced by his UFC record. Nate Diaz, I don't even think he's that good, Askren said, admitting that it would cause major issues with the Californians' masses of fans online. I'll go get his record if you want me to, but he has convinced people he's good at fighting somehow, some way. When Cormier argued back that he was pretty good and that he won the Ultimate Fighter, Askren hit him back with the numbers. No, he wasn't, Askren said when Cormier suggested he was good for the time when he was fighting. He was average. They're going to yell at me, but okay, let's see. His record is 21-13. That's not that great. Going into the UFC he was 5-1, so within the UFC, he was 16-12, Diaz was 16-11 in the UFC. That's not very good. Cormier agreed, replying that there's really no way to twist that into good. Askren says that it was more personality outside of the octagon and antics that made Diaz a fan favorite. He then insisted that Cormier not post the interaction as a standalone clip for fear of repercussions from the Diaz army. His personality caught on, he says funny things sometimes, he's a little bit different, Askren began. Listen, please don't post this clip because the Diaz army will attack me. He has some fans who are rabid, if you say something bad about them they will come at you. Jason Statham may have booked Anthony Joshua's next fight with kickboxing legend. If Anthony Joshua decides to return to the ring later this year, his comeback fight may have been orchestrated by Hollywood royalty. The two-time unified heavyweight champion is currently recovering from a car crash in which two of his close friends passed away, and is not focused on boxing. His uncle recently claimed that he is going to retire from the sport, with his last fight coming in December against Jake Paul. However, if he decides he does want to get back in the ring, it seems that kickboxing legend Rico Verhoeven could be the opponent. And should that happen, Joshua would have Jason Statham to thank for the booking. Jason Statham helped to kickstart Rico Verhoeven and Anthony Joshua fight talks. On tonight's episode of the Ariel Helwani Show, the famed reporter told of how Verhoeven came to become a potential opponent for Anthony Joshua. Reportedly, it was Hollywood actor Jason Statham who came up with the idea while watching a fight with Turki Alalshik. My understanding is that during Ben Eubank 2, Turki Alalshik did an interview about what's next for AJ and he was sitting next to Jason Statham the actor, Helwani said. And he mentioned, if you recall, if anyone saw the broadcast, that we have plans for him. He referenced the Tyson-Fury fight, insinuated that there would be a Fury fight and said the next one, if you don't like it blame this guy. He was talking about Jason Statham in a joking way, of course, and that idea was the Rico fight. The way it was told to me was that Jason Statham saw the talk of Rico versus Francis Ngannou. If you recall from which program that talk emanated, it was Helwani's show. Anyway, that didn't come to fruition, and once that ball started to get rolling, attention was turned to Rico versus AJ. I have to admit, I was fascinated by it because I know Rico did one MMA fight and has primarily been a kickboxer. I was fascinated by Rico in boxing and maybe going for a bit of a run. Tyson Fury makes worrying wheelchair admission ahead of planned comeback. At 37 years old, Tyson Fury has announced he will make another comeback to the sport of boxing. After suffering a second loss to Alexander Usyk at the end of 2024, Tyson Fury announced once again that he was retiring from the sport of boxing. And the Gypsy King has seemingly stuck to his word throughout 2025, until rumors once again sparked of a potential clash between him and Anthony Joshua. With talks having seemed to trend in the right direction, before Joshua was involved in a tragic car accident that killed two of his friends, Fury officially announced his return. Fury makes worrying admission ahead of planned return. Once he announced he will officially return to the ring in 2026, the 37-year-old went on to reveal his three-man hit list of opponents he will target this year. But just a matter of hours after dropping his targeted fights for the year, the Gypsy King has made a concerning admission regarding his health. Throughout his long career in the sport, Fury has been involved in several taxing fights against the likes of Deontay Wilder and the aforementioned Usyk. And those hard rounds in the ring could have already caught up with the Brit. I have literally won everything from regional belts in England to Super World titles, Fury said in a video on his Instagram. For me there is nothing else other than the fight game. I love this fight game. There is nothing in it for financial gain. I could have retired 10 years ago. I've made an absolute fortune. It's not about the money, although I always want a good deal for sure. It's mainly about the love of the fight game and sport. I'm older than a mother, but I love to fight. And at the end of it all, I'll be punching like a mother, and I'll probably be ending up in a wheelchair like the rest of them all. Punch to death, don't know if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, or December, but it's the game I chose. Do you care about Tyson Fury's comeback? At this point in his career, after achieving everything there is to achieve in the sport, his comeback comes at a puzzling time. Although the majority of British boxing fans were interested in a clash between Fury and AJ, according to Joshua's family, he has retired from boxing following the recent incident. And unfortunately for the Gypsy King, that is seemingly the only fight fans were half interested in seeing. Conor McGregor offers Floyd Mayweather rematch at UFC White House event. Conor McGregor is keen to rematch Floyd Mayweather and wants to cash in the boxing legend's offer of an MMA fight. McGregor and Mayweather infamously competed in the second highest-selling pay-per-view of all time back in 2017. After winning the bout and retiring from the professional game, the boxing icon claimed that he could make a comeback in the UFC as part of a $1 billion deal. And now with both men years past their best, the Irishman is entertaining a potential bout with Mayweather inside the octagon. He even has a venue and date picked out, the South Lawn of the White House in June. Conor McGregor pushes for Floyd Mayweather MMA rematch at UFC White House. Conor McGregor took to social media this evening to share a throwback video of the international media tour for his fight with Floyd Mayweather. He reminisced on the moment, before deciding to call out his old rival for a promised MMA bout. McGregor has been out of action since the summer of 2021, while Mayweather's last professional bout was in 2017. The legendary boxing champion has since been on a world tour of exhibition bouts with celebrities, MMA fighters, and other boxers, but those are far from competitive affairs. Fun times at Dana White, at UFC. McGregor wrote, "At Floyd Mayweather, when you are ready for that promised MMA bout, I am here. The White House is nice in the summer, I heard. Just kidding, Mike. Although I could fight both the same night. Floyd MMA? Easy. 10 seconds. Conor McGregor left double entendre in Floyd Mayweather message. What some fans may have missed in McGregor's viral call-out to Mayweather was the double meaning behind when he wrote, "Just kidding, Mike." Not only is he talking about Michael Chandler, against whom he is expected to fight at the UFC White House event, but also Mike Tyson. The legendary heavyweight is due to face Mayweather in an exhibition bout this year, which would be put in jeopardy if this bout happened. McGregor and Tyson are close friends, and the Irishman welcomed him to his Dublin pub last month during a visit to Ireland for a speaking engagement. Anderson Silva begins transition into new career after landing stunning KO at 50. Anderson Silva is finally starting a career outside of combat sports at the age of 50, even though he wants one more fight. The former UFC middleweight champion is considered one of the greatest strikers in the history of MMA. He had a historically long reign atop the middleweight division before the sport's massive mid-2010s boom that has seen him land on many of the sport's GOAT lists. After being forced to retire in his late 40s, he switched to boxing where he revitalized his career with impressive wins over fellow Octagon legends Tyron Woodley and Tito Ortiz. He also lost a narrow decision to Jake Paul, but perhaps his best win is former boxing world champion Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Anderson Silva begins training for job in Beverly Hills PD. After his historic knockout win over Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva announced that he was going to be pursuing a career as a member of the Beverly Hills Police Department. He claimed that after decades living in the community, he wanted to give back in a unique way. "I go back to work right now and start my police academy to Beverly Hills PD," he declared in his post-fight interview with Ariel Helwani, where he also insisted that he would like to fight on despite turning 50 in 2025. And in a series of videos today on his Instagram page, Silva can be seen practicing the various skills necessary to become a policeman. He also appears to be holding a certificate indicating some degree of qualification. "There will be days when fatigue, pain, uncertainties, my imperfections, fear will knock on the door to want to come in, but I will not allow it," he wrote in a lengthy post alongside the photos and videos. Even when there seems to be no way out, when everything is foggy, everything seems lost. I will not back down, for my faith is in God and my fight to continue seeking to be better than yesterday is eternal. As long as I have the strength As long as I have the strength to rise and fight, I will fight the good fight with faith, strength and honor until the end, anywhere, rain or shine. Even if the weather is bad all the time, I will be there unapologetically, ready. Tyson Fury reveals three-man hit list for 2026 after announcing his return to boxing. Former heavyweight world champion Tyson Fury has outlined his three-man hit list ahead of his return to the sport in 2026. Following another loss to Alexander Usyk in December 2024, former heavyweight world champion Tyson Fury announced his retirement from the sport. And after sitting out for the entirety of 2025, at the back end of the year, rumors once again surfaced of a potential clash between the Gypsy King and Anthony Joshua. Although talks seem to have been trending in the right direction, Joshua was involved in a tragic car crash that killed two of his friends, leaving his position in the sport unclear. Fury outlines three-man hit list for 2026. Just a few days ago, Fury made an official announcement that he will be returning to boxing in 2026 after another short-lived retirement. And the 37-year-old followed that up by revealing his three-man hit list for the new year, as he looks to reclaim the heavyweight titles. The first fighter on Fury's hit list was the aforementioned Joshua, however, that fight is unlikely to happen. Just over a week after being involved in a tragic car accident, according to Joshua's family, he has told them he will be retiring from boxing, putting an end to any further talks of Fury versus Joshua. The second man on Fury's list was his longtime rival, Usyk, who currently holds 3 of the 4 heavyweight titles. After already suffering 2 defeats to the Ukrainian, the Gypsy King will likely have to accumulate a few impressive wins before he is given a trilogy against Usyk. And the third fighter on his list, and potentially the most likely fight to happen, was Fabio Wardley, who currently holds the WBO heavyweight title after Usyk dropped it. Fury then went one step further by saying Wardley could be an option in 2026. Big smoke after a long layoff. Could Fury come back to win a title? It is undeniable that a comeback fight against Wardley would be dangerous for the regressing Fury. Despite that, it would be another huge milestone in the career of the Gypsy King if he could come back and win another title. Anthony Joshua's family claim he's told them he'll retire from boxing 1 week after fatal crash. A new report suggests that we may have seen the last fight of Anthony Joshua's career. Joshua's knockout win over Jake Paul on December 19 looked to have ended his year on a high note following his long-awaited return to the ring. Talk immediately turned to what would be next for the former 2-time heavyweight champion following his huge bout on Netflix. 10 days on from the bout, tragedy struck after Joshua was involved in a fatal car crash while in Nigeria to welcome in the new year. The 36-year-old is yet to comment on how this will impact his plans for the future, though reports suggest that he's already made this decision. Anthony Joshua's uncle claims he's already told his family that he'll retire from boxing. Anthony Joshua posted on social media for the first time since the crash on Sunday, January 4. This same day saw him attend funerals for his 2 friends, Sina Gami and Latif Aodil, who were tragically killed in the crash near Lagos, Nigeria. Mirror Fighting have since reported that Joshua is yet to make a decision on whether he will continue fighting without 2 longtime friends and members of his team by his side. However, his uncle, Adedamola Joshua, has said that Jake has already made his mind up on hanging the gloves up following his 33rd professional bout. The major thing there is that he has retired from boxing, Adedamola told The Punch on Monday, December 5. That is one thing that makes us glad, because each time he's fighting in the ring, we are always carried away emotionally. Each time he's knocked down, it is just like the heart is coming out of our chest, he continued. All these emotional feelings whenever he's fighting, it's too much trauma for us, also. Now that he has said that he's leaving while the ovation is highest, we are happy. The Punch also noted that Adedamola then confirmed that Joshua had relayed this decision to his family. Anthony Joshua's career ending at 36 years old won't ruin a great legacy. It looked like Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury may finally face each other in 2026 after years of back-and-forth comments between the two men. The fight certainly made a lot of sense given that it's the one big matchup that has eluded them in their spectacular heavyweight careers. If this is the end for Joshua's career, it would be a completely understandable and emotional send-off. As a former two-time heavyweight champion and Olympic gold medalist who helped make boxing feel huge and exciting again, especially in the UK, his run will go down in the history books regardless of when it ends. Deontay Wilder reveals the hardest hitter he's ever faced ahead of potential clash against Alexander Usyk. Deontay Wilder has faced a who's who of heavy-hitting heavyweights, but a particular Frenchman stands out to him more than most. Towards the back end of 2025, it seemed highly likely that Deontay Wilder would return to the boxing ring to take on former UFC heavyweight champion, Francis Ngannou. Despite that, the Predator seemingly priced himself out of negotiations and the fight didn't come to fruition, and it looks unlikely that it ever will. However, instead of fighting the inexperienced Ngannou, it now looks likely that the Bronze Bomber will fight three-belt heavyweight world champion, Alexander Usyk, adding to the list of names that Wilder has shared the ring with. Wilder reveals the hardest hitter he's ever faced. Throughout his 49-fight career, the Alabaman has fought a who's who of heavyweights, from Tyson Fury to Zhilei Zhang. Usyk, though, like Fury, is known for his elite fighting IQ as opposed to his knockout power, but Wilder has fought several fighters who have terrifying power, like himself. Big Bang Zhang is widely regarded as one of the hardest-hitting heavyweights in the world, but there is another fighter who stands out to Wilder as the hardest-hitting opponent he's ever faced. "I can remember the feeling in the ring with Johann de Horpers, the Frenchman," Wilder told Vegas Insider. "Every time he hit me with his jab, I kept saying in my head, 'God damn, he hit hard. He got grit in his gloves.' He was the only fighter who made me really think like that. Every time I got hit, I thought, 'Damn, that hurt.'" Wilder fought the Reptile back in 2015 in what was his second WBC heavyweight title defense. And although the Bronze Bomber credited de Horpers as the hardest hitter he's faced, Wilder scored the finish in the 11th round. At that point in his career, the Frenchman had never been finished, and he has fought the likes of Alexander Povetkin, Jarrell Miller, and Robert Helenius. Usyk's manager provides update on potential Wilder clash. When the Ukrainian champion picked Wilder as his next opponent, it came as somewhat of a surprise considering the 40-year-old's recent form in the sport. However, Usyk considers Wilder to be one of the best heavyweights of their generation and would like to add his name to his resume. And with the year having just begun, Usyk's manager recently provided an update on the potential clash, claiming that it is being targeted for April or May. Manny Pacquiao was unknown before taking a $40,000 risk that changed his life forever. Manny Pacquiao took a calculated risk that changed his life in 2001. In December 1998, the Filipino boxing legend won his first world title by knocking out WBC flyweight champion Chatchai Sasakal in Thailand. Manny Pacquiao missed weight before getting stopped inside 3 rounds when he lost the belt 9 months later. A move up to super bantamweight followed, but 6 wins on, he was still chasing a title chance. Manny Pacquiao's US debut. Lalo Ledwaba was supposed to defend his 122-pound IBF belt against Enrique Sanchez in June 2001. Oscar de la Hoya's WBC light middleweight title fight against Javier Castillo was the main attraction. Ledwaba was a part of his Las Vegas undercard because the South African was touted as a future star. When Sanchez dropped out 2 weeks before fight night, Ledwaba was left scrambling for a replacement opponent. Pacquiao didn't think twice when he was offered the chance to step in for just $40,000. "Freddie, Roach, and I had trained together about 2 weeks, and now I'm walking into the ring at the MGM Grand to fight Ledwaba on HBO pay-per-view," he said. "It was crazy. That fight changed my life." Pacquiao won every round before stopping Ledwaba in the 6th in an upset that stunned boxing fans. Manny Pacquiao's next fight. 25 years later, Manny Pacquiao has established himself as one of the greatest boxers of all time. The 47-year-old is still competing and determined to achieve more great things in 2026. Pacquiao's four-man list of potential opponents was recently revealed by his advisor. Manny wants real fights, big fights, entertaining fights, Sean Gibbons said. That goes back to Gervonta Davis, Floyd Mayweather, and Ryan Garcia. Devin Haney? You can throw Devin Haney in the mix as well. These are the types of fights Manny would take. They move, they're skilled, they're not overly dangerous for a 47-year-old guy in the ring. At this age, it's prize fighting. And whatever the biggest prize is, Manny's not worried. I think he could fight twice. He's done exhibitions, which keep him active, but he's really in shape right now. He's running, training, and fired up by his son, Jamul. One of the biggest things we want to do is Manny and Jamul on the same show, father and son.